What's doing, everybody? I'm Alec. Thank you for watching First Class Fatherhood. Today's guest on the podcast is Mark Oz GEIST. Oz was a member of the Annex Security Team that was attacked in Benghazi back on September 11th of 2012, which unfortunately resulted in the deaths of 4 Americans. The event has been covered extensively, including a book entitled of the same name, 13 Hours, The Secret Soldiers of Benghazi. I did have the opportunity to interview the dad who plays Oz in the movie. Max Martini was here a while back. That interview is available in the archives of the show. Today, it's the real deal. Oz himself is here. He's a warrior and a hero, and it's a big honor to have him on the podcast. So go down there, smack the subscribe button, tap the like, and let's jump into it right now with Mark Oz GEIST on First Class Fatherhood. Joining me, First Class Father, Mark Oz GEIST. Welcome to First Class Fatherhood.
Hey, thank you for having me on. Great show to be on.
Let's start right here. How many kids do you have? How old are they?
I've got 3 kids. My oldest from my first wife is 24, I think he just turned 25. That's how bad a dad I am. No, yeah, we just celebrated his 25th birthday on October 21st, and my second is 22, going to be 23 in March. She's my first daughter with Crystal, my wife. She was 2 years old when me and Crystal got together. And then my third is 8 years old, and that's Kinley.
All right, very cool. And Mark, if you could, please just take a minute here to hit my listeners with a little bit about your background and what you do.
I grew up in eastern Colorado, mainly cowboying, doing a little bit of farming. Joined the Marine Corps, spent 12 years in the Marine Corps, then got out and really got out because of the deployment schedule. Wanted to try to make my family life work, become a cop, and that's not the best job to go from being in the military, because it's all, you're at everybody else's will. But was deputy sheriff, mainly investigating crimes against children and crimes against women for about 3 years, and then took a job as chief of police near where I grew up. Small town kind of Mayberry stuff. Gave me a little bit different perspective on law enforcement. You actually got to interact with the people, and it wasn't all on a negative basis. And then me and city council kind of had a disagreement on how law enforcement should be administered. I was kind of figuring that it was fair across the board. There's always those people that are in charge that think they sometimes should have a few, their friends or family should have a few forgiveness, I guess. But that ended start my business doing bounty hunting and private investigations. And then when the war kicked off, I just knew I had to get back into it, because my whole life's about serving others and serving this country, and started contracting as a private security contractor in early 2000 until I got injured in 2012 in Benghazi, Libya.
Yeah, incredible. And thank you for your service, Mark, of course. Now, along this journey of everything that you've done in all your life of service here, about how old were you? You're not going to be exact, but about how old were you when you first became a dad, and how did becoming a father kind of change your perspective on life?
Let's see. It was 1996. Me and my first wife had my first son, Tristan, out in North Carolina, and and that's that thing that really kind of pushed me to getting out of the Marine Corps. I mean, I loved serving in the Marine Corps and I loved what I did, but I wanted to be around there for him, and and be that dad that I had a great dad. I mean, my family stayed together. I mean, most of my family lived within 20 miles of each other. Grandparents on both sides, cousins, uncles, aunts. I mean, so those father figures, fathers, those uncles, and that life, being involved in family was something that was really significant to me. Unfortunately, got out, become a cop, ended up getting divorced because of that too, because I'm still gone all the time. And, I figured it would change, but it didn't. It's just, unfortunately, that's just the choices I made. And, I look back on it now, and I was gone for 7 of it. I did 21 deployments, and my little girl, I call her my do-over. It's because I wasn't always there for my kids, at least when they needed me at certain times. I mean, I justified it because I was gone for 2 or 3 months, and then I'd come home for a month, and that month I was home, I was able to, I didn't have nothing to do. I mean, so I didn't have to work. So I was able to be with him a lot, but, that just, it still causes, problems. And, but from that, it's just always being there for him and continuing to be there for him. And my little girls now kind of call her my do-over. I get to correct some of those mistakes I made, when I was young.
Yeah, well said. And it is one of the things that, why I'm so grateful for our men that serve in the military, our police officers, just because, I understand the sacrifice that makes. And a lot of times it takes a big toll on the family life for so many of them, men and women that do this. And one of the things I talk about on my show a lot here, Mark, is about the fatherless crisis that we have in our country. We got so many kids that are growing up without a father in the home. Now, you as a police officer, especially dealing with crimes against kids and seeing all these different things that you've seen, do you see that playing out a lot, or is a lot of this stuff directly related to kids that are growing up that have no father in their life?
Yeah, and not only the crimes that we're seeing. I mean, a lot of the guys that are in the military are serving because, the life that they had as a kid. I mean, they're bringing stuff. They're looking for that family, that sense of service, that sense of being a part of something bigger than themselves. And there's two ways you can go with it, in my opinion. Is you can do the positive thing and go into the military or go into law enforcement or something like that where there's a brotherhood, that family kind of, that unity. Or as we see a lot of them in the inner cities, you see them go into the gang culture, because that's that family that's there that tells them that we're going to always be there for you. And the devil does that. He whispers in your ear on this side, and you got to remember that God's on the other shoulder looking out for you. But those are the choices we got to make.
Yeah, I feel like, we constantly go back. Obviously, we're in an election year. Everything is high political, high tense. I just feel like if we don't get a hold on strengthening our family units in this country, I think we're really just running around in circles, so.
Oh, I agree. I mean, because I think it starts at the family. I mean, if you have, and I was blessed with that, as I said, I had the majority of my family within 20 miles. And so every Christmas, every holiday, there was probably 30, 40 people at the dinner table, and every Sunday it was at grandma's or something like that, doing chores, helping around the farm up there. And I think that's really where it starts for our country, because when we see the lack of unity and that lack of faith and trust in a family unit and the support that gives each other's and the security that gives a child, we see that that's why we see no faith and trust in our state or in our country. I look at people and they have more dedication to some football team than they do to our country or our flag or our service members or our law enforcement. And, it goes back to what you said. It's all about starting in that family unit.
Yeah, and I think so much of that, Mark, is because, obviously now with social media, it's even worse. If they got you 24 hours a day, pretty much, they got your attention, and they can do with you as they wish, because they suck you in and they keep your attention span, and it's very dangerous what's happening. And one thing I wanted to get to, I know the Second Amendment is a big one that's on the line this election season and everything. So gun sales, sales have shot up drastically due to the pandemic, due to the election cycle here. Yep. In your opinion, when is a good age to start introducing guns to your kids and teaching them about gun safety?
Well, to me, it's kind of an open-ended question, but in the sense of you got to make sure that you're trained yourself the right way, and then start if you're going to have guns in the house, at least in my little girl, we were at the annual meeting for NRA at one of the silent auctions. She's riding around on my shoulders, and I think she probably 5 years old, and she's like, "Daddy, there's the gun I want." And it was clear across the room, but it's the one that had pink camouflage on it, little 22 Cricket. But the way I dealt with my children, my oldest son, he loves to shoot. At about 6 years old, I got him an air pistol. First thing he had to do before he even got that is he had to be able to recite the 4 safety rules. And when he could do that without any help, then he was able to get a pellet pistol. And then he would carry that with me when we would go hunting. And, he had to abide by the safety rules, muzzle awareness, straight trigger finger, all of those things. And just graduate him into that until, and you'll know as a father when they're ready. I mean, each kid I think is a little bit different, but I think you got to start out with bringing them up in the safety side and understanding what it is and what weapons is, the cause of it. What can happen if you don't do something right with that? And I think those are the most important factors.
Yeah, good stuff, Mark. And getting back into you as when you were serving as a police officer, I think one of the stupidest hashtags I've heard of this year is defund the police. It seems to be really working to hurt everybody in a sense. So what is kind of your opinion on this whole defund the police thing, and what really needs to happen for the improvement between the police department and the community?
Well, one, I think, I don't think most people understand what cops go through. George Strait has a great song out. It's called The Weight of the Badge. And if you listen to that, I mean, because, there's always those that get into something or get sideways into an organization. Not every cop's perfect. None of us are really, but we all strive and are doing that to serve people. We're not there to hurt people, arrest people for ill, unless it's something they deserve. And cops, I mean, Joe Biden, not to get into the politics, but Joe Biden wants to send out a social worker to deal with mentally ill or this or that. Well, the problem with that, and I'm not saying there's not a partnership there, because that was one of the things we did with domestic violence, child abuse. Is my partner was a victim's advocate. But you're going out there together. But if you want to send somebody like that out on a call without cops, it's ridiculous. You're not going to be able to do it. You're not going to make any difference. I mean, we saw just a couple weeks ago the guy that got shot, that his mother said that he was trying to tell the cops not to shoot him. The guy had a knife. He's charging at the cops. They're gonna protect themselves, and they have every right to. And they ended up killing the guy. I'm not sure if he died or not. I know he got shot real bad. But what do you expect? How would a social worker, how would an unarmed individual, what you would have had there is a murder, and then you're not helping the guy either.
Yeah, I think it goes back to social media has made it so that we all see these things, and we see small clips of events that are taking place. We don't know the backgrounds of them, and we jump to conclusions on them. And before you can even find out, Twitter has decided what the outcome of this thing is, and it's really terrible because we try to Monday morning quarterback. We act as if the guy has all day to make these decisions, and it's terrible to see that. I just know that there's so many good law enforcement guys out there, but to see this distance between them and the community sucks right now, to be honest with you. And just want to pull it back into you as a dad here for a second, Mark. What type of disciplinarian would you say you are as a father, and is that different than the discipline style that you grew up with?
A little bit. I mean, I'm probably a mix between what I grew up with and which is kind of in the middle. I mean, my dad, my philosophy first is, no matter how strict the discipline is whatever amount of discipline you got to give as much love to the children as well, because that's the balance. I mean, and that correction, I guess you could call it, or that discipline needs to come immediate after whatever they do, so they understand that it is about that. And that's any way that whether you're grounding them, putting them in the corner. I grew up getting a belt across my butt, and it didn't happen very often, not because I didn't push the limits, but, it was kind of like a 3-stage thing. My dad, he would hear me and my brother fighting or doing something, and he'd be all he'd have to do is say, "Boys," and we're like, "Yeah, okay, we could push it a little bit further." And then you'd hear his belt come off, and then he'd fold it in half and pop it. And if you got to that point and kept going, then you knew you were going to get a whooping. And, and it wasn't a bad thing. I mean, I think I can't disagree with it. I mean, me and my brother do have kind of a different opinion on it, but I think I'm kind of in the middle there. I think that your discipline has to, whatever style you do, has to be firm and immediate. And then you have, when your kids are doing good, you got to give them as much praise and love as well.
Yeah, and obviously the big difference there between beating a child and spanking a child, and I think it goes back to what I was saying before there. Without that father, like I was one that grew up, wait till your father gets home, type of deal. And I think if you don't have that threat and it's not a serious one in your life, I think that's why you see so many kids out there throwing bricks through windows and stuff like that, and having no fear of consequences. I think it
Yeah,
leads to that.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. There's got to be consequences for your actions, both good and bad. If you're doing something good, you should have consequences. If you're doing something bad, then you know, a belt popping in the other room. If that's what it takes, that's what it takes. Or like you said, hey, just wait till your father gets home. I heard that a time or two as well.
Yeah, and obviously here, Mark, you were a member of the security team that got left to fend for yourselves over in Benghazi. There, I've had Tig on the show here as well. Obviously, your daughter's too young yet, but what about your older kids? Have they read the book, seen the movie? What kind of reaction did they have to really getting a chance to see a little bit inside the incident?
Yeah, they both did. Oldest son, my oldest son was living with my ex-wife pretty much the whole time I was contracting and growing up there. And he really didn't know. He knew I was working overseas, but he didn't know who and what I was doing. My oldest daughter, she was kind of witting, is what I call it. She was aware of what I was doing, and it was harder on her than I think the whole, not just the incident, my whole deployment schedule and this and that. And but I think they gained some appreciation for, you can hear the stories and they can see what I do on a daily basis. But after seeing what we went through, and it's not just appreciation for me, but more so, I think it's just appreciation for those who serve this country.
Yeah, well said, Mark. And I read both the books, saw the movie. I thought the book was phenomenal, and it really did give me a better appreciation for what was going on with everything there too. So, what's next for you here, Mark? What kind of goals or plans do you have here for yourself for the future?
Well, got a lot of irons in the fire. I still do a lot of public speaking, getting around the country. Me and my wife also have a nonprofit. It's called Shadow Warriors Project. We started that pretty much almost immediately after I got out of the hospitals. I actually thought of it while I was in, but what we do is try to help support those private security contractors and their families, because as contractors, there's really no family support services as the military has for the families, and really try to help them out if their husband or their spouse gets killed or injured, and because you have a workman's comp policy. My pay stopped the day I left Benghazi. So I went from making a good living to making zero, and then had to wait for workman's comp to get in. And then that was about a third of what I was making. So it was a big life adjustment, and we almost lost our house and things. So we decided that we didn't want anybody else to go through that. And then recently we've added up a dog program into it and opened that up to both contractors and veterans, though most contractors are veterans. But we have a dog program where we're giving away trained service animals and to veterans and that need them, and just kind of continuing that sense of service is pretty much mostly what I'm doing.
Yeah, great stuff. Yeah, I'll include a link to the Shadow Warrior in the description of this podcast episode, so my listeners can tap the link and get over there. Last thing I want to hit you with here, Mark, I love to ask all the dads that I get on the podcast, what type of advice do you have for that new dad or for that about-to-be father who's out there listening?
No matter what you're doing, I mean, what your job is, our jobs, whether you're an over-the-road trucker, whether you're in the military deploying, if you're whatever. I mean, the thing is the time that you have with your family, spend it with your family. It's hard to come home and then not want to hang out with the guys and that because you haven't seen them in a while, but make sure you're spending that time with the family and making sure that you're, for me, it's teaching my kids honor, courage, integrity. Somebody asked me the other day, well, what's the worst what's the worst thing or worst person there is? And I think it's a liar. And I say that because if I got somebody who's a murderer or something like that, what he is. I mean, there's no doubt. But a liar will sit there in front of you and tell you whatever you want to hear and then be doing something behind your back. And you can just never trust that person who's a liar. And I think that is, your word is your bond. I grew up that way with my grandfather. My grandfather served in World War II, had 5 Purple Hearts, Silver Star, Bronze Star. He was my hero, and he was that epitome of honor, courage, integrity, justice, judgment. doing what's right by your family, and make sure you pass those things on to your kids, because we're living in a society where that doesn't matter anymore. We see it's okay like right now with America. I mean, in the elections, do I want Donald Trump to win? Yeah, I think he's better for the country, but I want a free and fair election that we can have trust and faith in. And part of the country doesn't care about that. Whatever way it falls, I'm going to back it if it's free and fair and it's open. But when you have people that are willing to lie and cheat and steal just to win, there's something wrong with that.
Yeah, well said. I love the advice. I love the message. This has really been an honor for me. I got to say, Mark Oz, Geist, you're a first-class father all the way. And thank you so much for giving me a few minutes of your time here on First Class Fatherhood.
Hey, thank you so much, and God bless you. And to all the fathers out there, it's difficult, but keep it up, and love you all. God bless.